Alison Jenner is in the Liberal Democrats in UK. Your work is amazing. You've done so much along with other people in the Lib Dems in Britain, and I think it will be a great inspiration to women all over the world. So over to you.
For me, this all started with an article that Baroness Lynn Featherstone wrote in the semi-official Lib Dem Voice. I've also a message to those people who believe they can restrict trans women's rights, deny their human rights. Obviously, we don't want to do that. Or exclude them, only the males, from women-only spaces in the name of feminism. You're not feminists. Your views are not welcome in the Liberal Democrats. Now, that I saw that, and it was like a hammer blow, and I really considered leaving. I was really fed up by this. In fact, my daughters had already piqued me to realise what was going on. I'd had no idea until they'd spoken to me. And I found this was really very depressing. And as I now understand, I think it's contrary to the Equality Act as well. There's guidance about this. They're not supposed to harass individual members. Anyway, I thought about going, and then I thought, well, if you leave, the water closes over your head, really. It's as if you never belonged there. And I've been a Liberal since 1979 and a Liberal Democrat since they started the new party. And I thought, well, I'm not going to go. So a lot of people I know are like this, and a lot of Liberal Democrats have left because of this sort of approach. And by the time of the Lib Dem conference in 2020, because of COVID, it was online, there were about, over half a dozen people that were already talking to each other. And 6 members of the Awkward Squad decided we'd speak about a motion that was up. We only wanted to speak against 2 lines in a business motion, not a policy motion. And it was about providing mixed-sex toilets at conference, which obviously we no problem with that. But we said that the 2 lines said that trans women are women, trans men are men, non-binary people are non-binary. And we thought that we tried to amend it to remove that bit because, of course, it's not literally true. Anyway, that wouldn't happen. So we spoke and gave our speeches. I tweeted my speech afterwards, which got some traction. And it also generated some complaints as well that I had actually spoken against party policy. But actually, in our party, Lib Dems are allowed to speak and to vote against party policy. Anyway, from that experience, we decided to get organised. In March 2021, we launched Liberal Voice for Women, quite simple to promote understanding of the protected characteristic of sex, and try to develop pro-women's campaigns, policies, events, conference motions, ensure that Lib Dem policies that undermine or compromise our rights get scrutinised and opposed, and try to ensure that the Lib Dems remain a home for open, respectful debate about issues that affect women. Clearly, with Baroness Featherstone's approach, that wasn't top of the list of activities. Anyway, so we launched this idea. We have got a website, http, you can see it at the bottom, liberalvoiceforwomen.org, and we're on Twitex, so we're at libvoice4women. We've also got a Facebook page, which doesn't get as much traffic, but sometimes it gets busy. And we have a number of different things. We actually have a monthly Zoom event on topical issues. We've got really expert speakers, authors, campaigners. We've had Helen Joyce, Kathleen Stocks, Sheila Jeffries, who I think is here today, came to speak to us last January. Janice Williams also came to speak to us this spring. And on 20th of November, we're going to speak to Louise Somerville and Emma Barraclough of Bad Policy Watch. They're looking into councils that pass motions which are against their public sector equality duty, and they're working hard to try and counteract that. And in December, we're speaking about trans widows to Tinsel Angel and Emma of Children of Transitioners. You can find some of our events. They've been recorded and they're on our YouTube channel. Our interview with Dr. David Bell, he was one of the whistleblowers at the Tavistock Institute. I think that's been quoted or referred to in an American paper. We also hold cross-party working sessions with Labour Women's Declaration and the Conservatives for Women and the Greens. And in fact, all the parties in the UK have got women's groups, pro-women's groups that are trying to counteract this sort of nonsense. And even if you don't actually believe in any particular, if you can't support the political notions of the main parties, you might want to set up and stand as an independent. I know people who used to be Lib Dem members have stood as independents since then. And we also organised Lib Dem only briefings for parliamentarians. Most recently, we had Sex Matters talking to our parliamentarians in a kind of private group where they could speak freely. This is really important, I think, for parliamentarians because in so many cases, they get barracked. As you know, we all get barracked by activists about this sort of thing. And giving a space where they can talk to experts about things that are really important about policies and acts of parliament, potential acts of parliament, is crucial. We also provide advice and training for councillors. Now, we don't have a lot of MPs in the Lib Dems, but we do have a lot of councillors. And our third one is coming up probably in December. Should have been yesterday, but one of our tutors was ill. And this is on the Equality Act 2010, the public sector equality duty that all public bodies have to make sure they foster good relations between the various people with protected characteristics. And also the Lib Dems have got quite a good pack where they tell you about doing equality impact assessments. And this is how you need to take into account the impact on other groups of any policies that you might be undertaking. And it's amazing how many bodies don't do any impact assessments on their policies, just like turning the ladies' pond into mixed sex. It's just appalling the way that the consultation wasn't properly done and the impact assessment wasn't carried out. So I think there's plenty of room there for possibly a judicial review. And these sessions have led to forming a WhatsApp group, a support group for councillors, where they can sort of air questions and occasionally get one-to-one advice. And we're pushing for policy changes. We've had petitions about puberty blockers, about free speech, and about conversion practices bill that might be coming up soon. And those have been signed by lots of our councillors and members and parliamentarians. They haven't had a huge impact so far because we've put in motions which have addressed things like conversion practices, puberty blockers. We tried to submit one for this autumn's conference, but it was turned down. However, we have been able to put forward a constitutional amendment. This was in March, this year's spring conference in York. And a constitutional amendment, if it's in order, has to be listened to. And so this, we thought, was a way to address an unfairness about the allocation of places on federal bodies, because many more men than women are appointed or elected. But there's also a little trick that they have of moving next business. If you don't think it's worth listening to, you can move on to the next business. But we were liberal enough to at the conference to vote for listening to the case of the people either side who wanted to have this motion. So Zoe, our chair, Dr. Zoe Hollowood, she had 2 minutes to speak to give a speech at conference, and that again is also on our YouTube. It is actually brilliant. And she gave this speech. It was turned down. They voted overwhelmingly not even to listen to the point of view of getting women's fair places on the various federal bodies. But Zoe's followers increased hugely, and you can see from here at the bottom of this picture, 507,000 views and 1.7 thousand likes and lots, hundreds of reposts of this. This is not one of our members, I have to say, but somebody obviously found it really interesting that Zoe was able to speak about this. So we're getting lots of traction with these. We've now got over 550 email subscribers. We've got over 800 YouTube subscribers. If you want to subscribe, you can add to that total. And we've got over 150 members who've signed our petitions. So we're providing support and community for Lib Dem members who believe that sex is real, that it's immutable, and that it is salient in certain circumstances. Now, I was a councillor on my local council. I'm still a parish councillor, but I got deselected last autumn, ready for the elections this May. But actually, in the meantime, we were standing for, and we got elected to a number of federal bodies. I was elected to the Federal Conference Committee, and 3 of us were elected onto the Federal Council, which is a new scrutiny body to overlook the board which manages the whole of the party. And lots of us have been elected onto the English Council. I'm on the regional executive, which is where a lot of the work to do with the parties gets done. This spring, we had a generous donation, so we were able to buy bulk copies of Hannah Barnes's book, Time to Think. If you haven't seen this, it's really good. It's about what happened in the Tavistock. It's a really well-balanced book as well. It's not sort of all one side. There's some pieces by transitioners saying their point of view as well. It's really thought-provoking. And we were able to give out copies to the leader, Ed Davey, some of the MPs, and also to a key party donor to talk to him about, is it good to be doing this? We also sent copies to leaders of Lib Dem run councils. There's about 40 or 50, and we had enough copies to send to about 45 councils. And councils are often the place where the services are provided and decisions are made about our daily life. For the past couple of years, we've also sent out Christmas cards to councillors, to parliamentarians, to our speakers, and members across the country. The cards have a link to our website and our TwitX feed. And the first year, one councillor, who you'll see here, Councillor Scott Emery, he put up something you'll see in the picture, the first picture. Why are they sending us Christmas cards? And made the point of his views being trans women and women, etc. But it attracted some negative comments, as you can see, from supporters and Twitter viewers all over the place. Operation They Do Our Work For Us was in progress here. And, it's the season, Scott. We're trying to make friends and make contacts with people. And that worked really well. I think we're making incremental steps. We feel that many peers and some MPs have been piqued by the trans activists' unreasonable demands. And we've got a new code of conduct which insists that we are supposed to be polite and respectful of those members with different views. We always try to be polite when we're speaking, and it's not necessarily the case that other people are polite about us. In fact, we've been accused of being an infestation of pubic lice, of being white supremacists, and being anti-Semites. And of course, none of these is the case. A local councillor, not here, but another part of England, who tweeted the TERFs, was reported by people from many different political standpoints, and he's been told to have some training about being polite to people, and he's supposed to be making a public apology in his November council meeting. But we're still being discriminated against by our party. At our recent autumn conference, we were again refused permission to have a stand, and we also applied at a commercial rate to have an advert of our fringe event, and this was turned out with no explanation at all. That's £700 we would have spent with the party, refused point blank. This, we think, contravenes the Equality and Human Rights Commission's guidance for political parties, and we've just been refused a stand at my regional conference. Again, more discrimination. We held our event, which was chaired by Dame Jenny Murray. British people will know that she was for 30 years, the hostess of Women's Hour. And it was introduced by our president, Baroness Sarah Ludford, who's taken an awful lot of stick for being a rational, sane person. And she's endured a lot of vicious abuse. And I think Jenny Murray had some stick as well. We had Raquel Rosario Sanchez in the room and Dr. Lauro Favaro, with also Vaishnavi Sundar on Zoom from India, each talking about the abuse of women's rights. And we launched our little booklet, you can see there, which is now lodged in the various deposit libraries across Britain and Ireland. So once they all get accessed and in the system, you can borrow these actually from the British Library. from the Bodleian Library in Oxford or the Cambridge Library. There's also deposit libraries in Wales, Scotland, and in Trinity College Dublin, where you can access these from. So do borrow these, and the same is true of the WDI book too. One of the Lib Dem members, Natalie Bird, was a prospective parliamentary candidate who wore a T-shirt with woman, adult, human, female on it. She was banned for about 10 years, I think, from standing as a candidate again, which is absolutely, unbelievable. She now has a lawsuit out against the party, and we're waiting to see the outcome of a case by Dr. Shahrar Ali, his case against the Green Party for discrimination and unfair treatment, as we think that may be significant for not only Natalie Bird's case, but also the behaviour that the party has subjected us to. We carry on, and again, don't feel that you have to be a member of a party, but if you can subscribe to any of the political parties, then I would say join them. They're not allowed to discriminate against you. It's absolutely against the EHRC guidance for political parties, and we mustn't let them get away with it.